Hey UConn Nation, it's KK Arnold here. If you're looking for the latest UConn women's basketball content, go subscribe to Listen Up to Phil and Ryan. Go Huskies!
Welcome back to Listen Up as we prepare for a Final Four matchup between the UConn Huskies and the Iowa Hawkeyes. And who would have thought that this depleted UConn Huskies roster would have made it to the Final Four? But before we start the last check-in, don't forget to follow Phil on Instagram. And also don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe as we're on the journey to 2,000 subscribers. So hopefully we get there pretty soon, but continue the support. We can't thank you guys enough. This month has been absolutely insane throughout March and as we bleed into April a little bit. But let's get into this last check-in between UConn and Iowa. And it has been quite the journey so far for these UConn Huskies. They're on a 13-game win streak and only 8 healthy players and basically 6 players that actually play each night. So how they have been able to avoid fouling out through the tournament and the lack of depth has somehow not affected them yet has been pretty amazing to watch. Paige has been playing absolutely out of her mind. Aaliyah and Ashlyn have been putting up very solid numbers so far. Nika has continued her persistent defense and passing, and KK has been a nice spark of energy and putting in a lot of work that goes very unnoticed. And I would even say their last game against USC, UConn may not have won if they wouldn't have had, or if it wouldn't have been for Caden Samuels and Ice Brady providing those crucial minutes off the bench. So moving on to the Iowa, they've also had quite the journey to reach back-to-back Final Four appearances. Caitlyn Clark has also been playing out of her mind throughout this tournament. Last game against LSU, she put up 41 points, 12 assists, and 7 rebounds, which was perhaps her biggest performance when the lights were shining at their brightest. But can she do it again against UConn, who somehow always manages to limit the opposing team's best scoring threat? Iowa is also a team that really only plays 6 players on a regular night and heavily relies on their starters, just like UConn. So I think a lot is going to ride on senior guard Kate Martin, who scored 21 points against their win against the LSU Tigers, and also junior guard Sydney Falter, who added 16 points in that game. So I think Iowa and UConn are very similar teams on paper. 2 superstar guards both rely heavily on their starting lineups, and both teams, in my opinion, play better when the supporting cast plays a lot better. And I think this game comes down to whether Aaliyah Edwards can post, 2010 double-double. Can Ashlyn Shade remain a threat from 3? And for Iowa, can Kate Martin, Sydney Falter step up and score 15 to 20 points again behind Caitlyn Clark? I think this is going to be a very, very entertaining matchup Friday night, and I can't wait to watch how this one unfolds.
Yeah, boy, I received a lot of text messages, not phone calls, but nobody calls people nowadays, Ryan. Everybody sends text messages, right? And even I call you like what, maybe like 3 or 4 times, and sometimes you're like, Phil, stop calling, all right? But I'm like, all right, well, I'll try to text you, Ryan. But anyway, I see that smile breaking out on your face because you know just how it is. So, getting down to the story, I received a lot of text messages within the last day or two saying a lot of people they wish that this was the championship game. And now we can't forget about North Carolina State and South Carolina on that other side, but obviously the last game between LSU and Iowa, I saw that it was, I think, what did it say, Ryan? 12 point some million views. I guess the most watched women's basketball game. I think it said the ESPN page in history, in NCAA history, as far as women's basketball. I don't take me up on my word, but I think that's the way it went. So, or that's what it said. My point to you is shout out to Rose again on this. Rose is just there for me. Whenever I need her, to give her a call. She said, "Hey, I got your pass, ready to roll on in." Short story for you, Ryan. I think it was last, and I wish you would have been there. 9 times out of 10, you always are, but that night you was not. I was covering the Maryland Terps and the Iowa Hawkeyes game. Saw Caitlyn Clark just walk right by with her bags, with the teams, filing into the locker room with the head coach. Never would have thought, guessed in a million years, not only would have been turning into this kind of star with all these commercials and the such, but facing Paige Bueckers and the UConn Huskies in the Final Four. Get it? So, but no, man. So long story short, I I went back and looked at the last two games that Caitlyn Clark has been in versus UConn. They've held her to 20 some points each of the last two games. One with Paige, one without. My point to you is, Ryan, that's doing something, especially if, obviously, I don't know. You must be living under a rock if you don't know who Caitlyn Clark is and Paige Bueckers by now. That's doing something when you're holding her to 20 or, to between 20 and 30, in my opinion. Not only that, she is facing, arguably, I think so, she is facing the toughest defense right now, currently, in NCAA women's basketball. I don't know if you agree with that or not. I think this is if Caitlyn Clark makes it to the championship, I think that this game is going to be well earned here as far as the toughest test that she faces. I don't think if she makes it to the championship, I don't think that's going to be the toughest test. I think this game will be Clark's toughest test of the whole year, considering the UConn Huskies, how they steal the ball, how they play defense, how they rebound on you. Look, it all starts with Aaliyah Edwards, Paige Bueckers, Nika Mule. We get it. And the freshman, KK Arnold, we've seen Caden Samuel step up in that last game with the big three. I think it's going to be the small plays that adds up big time. And that's the way it is when two stars go head to head and when two great teams get together in such high stakes. So, Ryan, with that said, obviously, predictions coming at the end, but I can't wait. I can't wait. We all know that you can't wait. Ryan cannot wait. Ryan, any other words before we get down into some comments, and then I will leave it off right there as far as predictions, obviously.
Yeah, I think that game you were thinking of might have been on Monday night. I believe it was Iowa's win over LSU. It averaged 12.3 million viewers and peaked at 16 million, which surpassed last year's LSU's win over Iowa in the championship game. So Iowa's win over LSU the other night became the most watched women's game of all time, I believe, which averaged at 12.3 million viewers. But yeah, I think the last time these two teams played each other, or the 2021 game, I believe, in which Caitlyn Clark and Paige Bueckers both played against each other, I believe they were also both freshmen in that game, and both obviously really, really good players, but both teams have changed a lot since then, and both Clark and Bueckers have changed a lot themselves. A lot's happened throughout those 3 years since that game. And I think both of the players have become a lot better all-around players, especially Paige just evolving after the injury. And obviously Caitlyn, the numbers she's putting up now have been absolutely insane. Nobody's ever seen anything like it before. But I think this game is going to come down to a little bit, like you said, between Aaliyah putting in work, inside the paint, KK Arnold, Ashlyn Shade, can the freshmen step up? And I think UConn's defense, they've been doing it all tournament long. Can they again try to limit Caitlyn Clark and some of her supporting cast, and somehow try to stop the best scorer of all time in men's or women's basketball?
Yeah, they were both wins again against Iowa, but you said it right. There's been a lot of change since then, and one game without Bueckers, one game without. And if you go back, Ryan, and look at the box score for you was talking about this 20-point game. It was 92 to 72 UConn. And if you take a look at that game, it was surprisingly, well, not surprisingly, but it was Kristen Williams scoring 27. That's the game that Paige Bueckers was playing in. So Kristen Williams led the way. I know we all remember that name. So Ryan, yeah, fun times ahead. Oh my, this is this is about to get fun the next 5 to 10 minutes. All right, let's go ahead and start off with Marcia Clark. Such an amazing win. I am definitely tired on my lunch break today. Paige was on another level, and all the other players stepped up when it mattered. Aaliyah, Nika, KK, Ashlyn, Q, and how about Ice Brady hitting some big time shots? What a great win. Looking forward to the next one. Also, can I just give a huge shout out to the coaching staff and to the parents? You can really see the love and the bond they all share. So lovely to see Chris D hug Q in the celebration. Feels like a family. And how about AZ Fudd's parents in the crowd? They are always cheering the loudest. What great people. Yeah, man. How about one of our best friends, Ryan? That's KK Arnold. I saw a highlight reel, I believe it was on Instagram, of her waving at her parents in the crowd and then giving Gino a big old hug.
Yeah, it was great to see. And yeah, like I said during the game recap, it really just seemed like the whole UConn team just really came together. And I think it's something they built throughout the whole entire season, even before the season, going to Europe and visiting those countries, playing those different teams during the preseason, even before the regular season, again, just doing different things to build the team chemistry. Just doing the different starting lineups and going through all the injured players and finally having a very solid starting five players and everybody coming together along with all the coaches. And I think really Gino's experience really came into hand in that game to get all these girls ready to go against USC. And everybody was so prepared. And even like I said, Ice Brady and Q coming off the bench, providing those minutes was really huge for UConn in that game. So everything worked in the UConn's favor. They were more prepared than USC, and I think that really showed up in that game.
This is obviously, and we appreciate you all. This is obviously kind of, no, I'm not surprised. I shouldn't say this. I'm not surprised at all. A great family we have on this podcast, a great bond we share with everyone. But again, I thought for sure with our predictions, some comments would really be beating us down. But look, I mean, they understand. I'm sure that you and I weren't the only ones. I get that. But again, our predictions were way off, and we really do apologize. But hey, at the end of the day, Ryan, like you said, you just don't know, and that's the beauty of sports. Do you mind if I take like words right out of your mouth? This is what you told me right after the game, not too long, like hours after we were done on the pod. Pablo goes, Gutierrez, Carlos says, don't underestimate UConn. They're on despite the adversities. Admirable. Congrats, UConn. Like, now that's words out of my mouth, the last two. Congrats, UConn. But yeah, it's like not only was Ryan surprised, I don't know if you tell me if I'm wrong, Ryan, but you were almost it was a beautiful thing. It's like not only you, but I'm sure everyone, can I use the word confused? It's I don't know.
Well, I think somebody in the comments also said if you watched UConn throughout the whole regular season, you would have picked USC in that game. And like I was saying in the last check-in before that game, UConn struggles throughout the whole entire season. Their 5 losses, I don't know how many times I've said it now, all came to top 15 teams. And I hate to keep saying that. And UConn really proved everybody wrong, which was a beautiful thing to see. And like I said, everybody played their best game. All 7 players, everybody that played had their best game that night. And the fact that everybody came together and said, you know what, we're not going to lose to a top tier team. We're going to fight. We're going to take down one of the best teams. And obviously, they're going to have to do it again Friday night. But yeah, it was just amazing to see everything finally come together and UConn finally take down a really, really good team.
And join us all in the UConn chant, Ryan. UConn Huskies. All right, one more. There he is, Jason D'Amico. I was looking for him. Clutch subscribers at clutch times. Jason says, my face is stuck in the smiling position so much it hurts. Don't feel bad, Phil. USC has a great team, and we all were thinking the same thing. There's your answer, Ryan. Congrats to UConn. Yes. Peace. Oh, Jason, do not mistake, and nobody else mistake how high, I'm sure they get it by now, how high my respect is how highly I think of Paige Bueckers. Why go with USC? Like I said, April Fools, Ryan, you know the rest.
Yeah, and like I said, it was just I don't know. I mean, the UConn was favored in the game. I don't know. It was it was just amazing to see, and I was speechless after the game. I think I'm still a little speechless, just trying to figure out how UConn won the game. I think it's just the lack of depth and everything they've had to overcome. There's no logical reason to think that UConn can win the game, and just somehow. They always prove to prove everybody wrong, and hopefully they can do it again Friday night.
And I loved how that the white towel was just, wrapped around Paige Bueckers, her shoulders. It's just like there's no words for it. It's just like a moment that we've been waiting for a long time. It almost seems like that. Now I don't want to talk too soon, but it almost seems like that they took it all just right then and there. Obviously still 2 wins away, but man, yeah, that image of Paige Bueckers standing, giving her a post game press conference, and then sitting also at the table. That's something that's an image that I will remember for a very long time when it comes to PB. All right, Ryan. Well, here comes the fun part. I don't know if you want to start or if you want me to go. Predictions on Listen Up. Yeah, I guess you go again. Hopefully, I won't even say anything else.
Well, I don't know how UConn is going to do it again and win this game, but I think they're somehow going to pull it off. Obviously, I went against them last game. They proved me wrong, so I can't go against them again. So I'm going to go UConn 88, Iowa 85. I think it's obviously going to be a really close game, but I don't want to be proved wrong again by UConn. So I'm going to go with them and finally believe in them. And hopefully I don't jinx it this time by picking them.
All right, I'm going to go 85 to 75. 85 to 75. One more time, Ryan. 85-75. Iowa over UConn. Now, hold on. I know everybody's thinking, what did he just say that again? Ryan, hold it. Let me just explain to you and everyone else without getting too much into detail. I know Jason has probably been falling off his chair by now. Do not fall off your chair, Jason. Look, let me tell you this, Ryan. You always have used the word superstitious. You always use that. You always tell me that when it comes to my Ravens, my Orioles. So understand, hopefully everyone understands it. I'm not going to say anything else, but I hope you, Ryan, and all of our subs, everyone watching this understands why I'm saying that, why I am going with that prediction. If you're not smart enough to understand, well, that's too bad. No, I'm just kidding. Everyone is smart, intelligent, beautiful people. But again, Ryan, I think you're catching on to what I'm saying by now. We saw it happen one time, and Friday night is coming again. So hopefully you can put 2 and 2 together, Ryan, and understand why I just made that prediction. Any last words before this critical matchup? And let's understand, Ryan, not saying anything bad about these two players. I want to get your take very quickly, a longer episode than usual. What does it mean for, again, it's a team sport, but in my personal opinion, there's a lot riding on the line. What UConn did against USC, I think that they can really take on South Carolina if they get to that championship game. If it comes down to them too, I think the toughest test is for Iowa and UConn right now. But again, getting down on into it, Paige Bueckers, Caitlyn Clark, whoever takes the loss, do you really think, and specifically Caitlyn Clark, do you really think that because Bueckers still has a year left? What is your take on just will people think about their greatness even though one of them has to take a loss?
Well, I don't think it's going to affect either of the mark they've left. I think, obviously, like you said, somebody has to lose, but Caitlyn Clark has shattered about every offensive record you could ever imagine. So I don't think it's going to shatter any of that or left behind a negative mark on Iowa or the women's game at all. Obviously, she's going to be the first pick, but I know she's probably pretty driven to try to get back to the championship game and finally get that championship in the ring so that she can really cement her legacy. And I think for Paige, even though she has a year left, I know obviously she came to UConn to become a champion, just like everybody else on the UConn Huskies roster. And obviously we're losing Nika and Aaliyah, so I know they're very, very motivated as well. So I think there's a lot of motivation, a lot of energy. So I think that's going to carry into the game as well. And I think this one's going to be a very, very tight, competitive game.
Ryan, believe in yourself, even when no one else does. If someone tells you that you can't do it, prove them wrong. Paige and Gino, you heard it right here. Go out there and do it. Phil and Rye on Listen Up.